Hello everyone, it's Verowak, and this is going to be my oxygen not included tutorial. So this is for the quality of life upgrade, the MK2, just to make sure that you guys are watching it for the correct update. So the first thing you do, in case you've never played oxygen not included, is you go to new game. You got no sweat or survival. I've always done survival. I'm not sure what exactly no sweat is. Maybe one day I'll figure out. You got standard game and a custom game. So the only reason I'm going to custom game is to choose my seed. You don't want to play with these. This is the regular mode. If you start playing and you realize things are way too difficult, then you can go and make it easier. So immune systems, they'll never catch a germ-based disease. It's just going to make the game, I think it's going to make the game way too easy, but if you follow along the tutorials, you'll be able to play at regular difficulty. The next thing is the World Gen Seed. I'll just pick something that's easy for you guys to follow along. So just type in the same seed as I'm typing and you'll have the exact same map. It's pretty nice. The only thing that's going to change, I believe, is the duplicants that are generated, but we'll go through that later. So quick, easy seed. Let's just do 1337. Very simple. And you go to start game. This is what your dupe looks like in space. Hopefully you don't get a cracked helmet. I don't even know if that's possible. I don't think it's possible. Go. So when you first start out, you get these 3 duplicants. 1, 2, 3. The fun thing about starting out is that you can shuffle them around. So you'd be like, oh, I want to just move this guy around. It's fine. So one quick thing I'll do, I'll show you, I guess, the top 3 negative traits to avoid when starting out. It'll just make your life easier. The first one you don't want to get is flatulent. It might seem fine, but basically these duplicants are just, they're going to fart, so they're going to let out natural gas. It's not too bad at first, but dealing with it a bit later gets really cumbersome, I'd say. So try not to get a flatulent duplicant. You can also shuffle these as frequently, as many times as you want. This is the only time you can selectively choose your duplicants. The next thing I'd say to avoid when starting out is bottomless stomach. They just eat more, so until you get a hang for how the food system works, it's probably best to avoid this. And the last one that you should avoid, if I can find it, mouth breather, there we go. Try to avoid this one. They're gonna consume more oxygen. So again, food and oxygen is probably like the toughest things to do while starting out. So try to avoid mouth breather because it's going to consume twice as much oxygen as normal. The rest doesn't really matter. As you play, you'll find different traits that you like, that you don't like. It's that simple. I'll just go through this little sheet real quick. This tells you the traits. So like mole hand, digging +3, you got gourmet, cooking +3, but food benefit -1. Gastrophobia, this guy can't cook. Biohazardist, immunity regen. Just go through all of them, look at them. It tells you their skill, what they're good at, and it also tells you the stress reaction. So whenever they get to 100% stress, this guy's going to binge eat. So he's just going to eat a lot of food. So if you're having problems with food and stress, this guy's not good, but you'll learn as you play. This one is destructive. Same with this one. Whenever they're stressed, they're just going to start breaking things. We'll just call this tutorial, you know what? Verowak begins, sort of like Batman begins, but Verowak begins. And then you embark. First thing you get is your map. Huzzah! Alert, I've awoken with a starting crew of 3 duplicants, but the situation here is not as we expected. Resources are scarce, and our pod is embedded miles beneath the planet's surface. I must help my duplicants survive before I investigate what went wrong. So you're basically responsible with their safety. You're their only hope of surviving. The first thing you could do is when you start out, press space, it's gonna pause it. Space to unpause, and then if the game is too slow, you can press tab to increase speed, which is amazing. So here you are at first. I'll just sort of explain really quickly what you're looking at exactly. So this is the safe zone. You've got a lot of different kinds of material. So here, you've got sandstone. This is sand. You just hover over it. It'll tell you what it is. Dirt, copper ore, you've got coal, there's algae. This is oxalite. So oxalite, if you can see, it says emitting oxygen 0 kilograms per second, but it's going to emit oxygen whenever the pressure is not maximum. Here you got fertilizer. That's basically what it is. You got water, obviously. And then you also have gases. So if you go to the oxygen overlay, just here, F1, these are all the F buttons. F1, F2 for power, 3 for temperature, 4 for thermal tolerance, and so on and so forth. I'll go through them when we need them, really. So here, you've got oxygen. Got this nice little legend that tells you it's very breathable. This here is breathable gas. It's barely breathable. The reason it's barely breathable is because the concentration is a lot lower. So here you've got 466.7 grams. If you go to the very breathable, it's over 1,000 grams. So anything over 1,000 grams becomes this very breathable. And then you got barely breathable, you got breathable, and then you've got unbreathable, like carbon dioxide, hydrogen, a vacuum, things like that. So this overlay is it's very important, so you know your duplicants have enough oxygen. Now the first thing to do, when you start out, you've got these two notifications. You've got no oxygen diffuser built and no outhouse built. The most important thing is building a toilet. If your duplicants don't have a toilet, I mean, it is what it is. They're gonna just go to the bathroom anywhere, and you don't want that. If they go to the bathroom and it gets into your clean water, I mean, they're gonna be drinking poisoned water. So avoid that. The first thing you want to do is start digging out in whichever direction you want. I like going to the edges of my safe zone. So here you've got dig, which is the short hotkey is G. And then you've got cancel, deconstruct with X, priority. We'll go through that, but digging is important. Here you go, just tell them to dig. Tell them go ahead. You can even start this way even. They'll start digging. Now I'm going fastest speed because I prefer fastest speed. Slow speed to me it's very slow, but I mean, if you're starting out, that speed is perfectly fine. There we go. Again, just like any game you play like Terraria or Minecraft, if sand has nothing underneath it to support it, it's just going to fall down like it did here. So a quick tip for when building things out, so you're going to need to build bathrooms. One thing I would suggest you do is build rooms. 18 wide. So at the bottom here, this is all everything your duplicants can build. So these are the just numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up. So you check here, you've got base, stuff relating to building a base, oxygen. So oxygen diffuser is going to create oxygen, generating power, how to make food, make sure your plumbing works. So these are good. Always make sure you see what they're about. We got medicine. You hope to never use this. This is a tombstone, tasteful memorial. If you have to use it, you have to, but eventually you'll get to a point where you won't even have to worry about building that ever, because no one's ever gonna die. So first thing I'm gonna do is build this 18 long. The reason I'm building it 18 long is because of rooms, which I'll show you once we get there. Here we are, and then I'm going to start building bathrooms. So once you build a bathroom, you want to also build a wash basin so they can wash their hands after going to the bathroom. If they don't wash their hands, then that means that they're going to spread their germs all over base. So I'm going to start with this, 3 of them. The reason I'm doing 3 is just to make it easier. I usually start with 2 outhouses and 2 wash basins, but I'll start with 3 just to make things simpler. So what I just did, my bad. I went to priority. If you press P, this tells you the priority. Everything is default 5. So if you tell them, okay, well, everything is 5, so everyone has the same priority, they'll get to it when they're there, in the order that they've been assigned. If I go priority 6, I'm telling them I want this built before everything else in 5. So someone's going to build this while the others keep digging. The same with this, I told them build this wash basin and this outhouse and that outhouse. Those are the priorities. These are all your, there's tutorials here to basic controls, colony management, you know, I'd say go through them, see what it says, and then just go from there. It's, they're tutorials for a reason, I guess. We got one wash basin, huzzah! You see this arrow at the top? This tells you that, this tells your duplicants whenever they go from right to the left and left to the right, whichever direction they're going, they have to wash their hands. But in this case, I don't want them going past the bathrooms. So only when they're exiting the room, they're gonna wash their hands. Just so it uses less water. Because here it tells you there's insufficient resources, it needs water. So water is an important resource. You don't want to just willy-nilly give it away and waste it. Some maps you start with a lot of water, like this is a nice amount of water. Other maps you start with not much. So the only way to get water is to have a pitcher pump. That's the only way they can take water from these water basins and transport them throughout the base. If you don't have that, they're not going to be able to get the water. One thing you have to notice or remember is that your duplicants are not the smartest. If there's one of them gets down here and can't get out, he's just gonna drown. That's it, that's all. So you have to sort of try to make things foolproof, which is why I'm putting in a ladder down here in case someone gets stuck. They'll be able to escape. Another thing to note is they can only jump horizontally over one square. So if I dig this and this is a hole, they won't be able to come from here to the other side. But this is okay. And vertically, they can jump up to 2 squares. So right here, if this is dug out, let's say this is open, they can jump up there, but 3 is too much. They'll just stand there and wait to die, basically. So here I want to get the pitcher pump ready. We've got 1 bathroom. My goal is usually to get at least 1 bathroom up before the first cycle. That's your days. Their downtime starts in this color, in the aqua-ish color. So we still got a little bit of time before they have the downtime and we have an outhouse. If that is your only priority for the first cycle, that's fine. If you can get that done, you're doing good. But there they are, we've got water. They filled these up with water. Let's change this, and there we go. So, speaking of overlays, we've got a germ overlay. Yellow is food poisoning, green is slime lung right here, food poisoning is yellow. A gem source is this circle thing. So bathrooms, oh there we go, bathrooms generate food poisoning. There we go, all this food poisoning everywhere. So if we didn't have wash basins, she would spread this like everywhere. Everything that she would use, like if she had a bed, she would put food poisoning germs in her bed. But now, use the wash basin, and he's gone. He's got no more germs. There we go. One thing that's good to do, the priority is always 5. Anything that's required for their survival, try to put it a higher priority. Just so you know for sure you're never going to run out of water, they'll prioritize that. And whenever this outhouse goes to red or full, they'll empty it. Don't empty it? Well, that just means it's not working. They're not going to be able to go. So again, here we'll do 18 wide, so let's just do that. The reason why I leave 2 spaces, I want 1 ladder, and then eventually if I want a fire pole I can do that, but it's just to let air flow better. Because if it's only 1 square, it'll take a while for the air to come from here down there. Or if you have CO2 up here, it'll take a while for it to lower. The next thing to do is get your duplicants beds. If they don't have a bed and they slip on the floor, they get a sore back, which reduces their athletics. Athletic is just their speed. So you want them to be as fast as possible. So here I've got 18 would be into the oxalite, so I want these 2 spaces. And then build tiles this way. 18, so I'm just gonna indicate here. See, notice how this is a different color, a different kind of material we haven't really seen in our very safe area. If you tell your duplicants to mine it, it's gonna tell you the colony lacks apprentice miners, so they can't dig this yet. So even if you want them to, they won't. So we'll just start with this. It's not necessary. Eventually we'll get there. So here there's different kinds, like there's obsidian, you've got granite, you've got some purple stuff, which we'll go over soon. Right now I'm just focusing on building the basic base for everyone. And then you've got some green stuff. Tell them to build, and then we'll get furniture. They can have beds, I suppose. Now the layout of how you want things done, it's all up to you. This is a very simple layout. The reason I grouped 2 together is because I could put decorations in the middle. But if you want, you can jam it full. That's fine. So since they're basically there, I'm going to start showing you what rooms are. A room is something that gives you perks. For example, if you have barracks, which is an enclosed room, so you need doors in order for it to be considered a room. Right now, this is a 305 tile room. It's not doable. Maximum room size is 128, so that's not a room. Let's enclose this space with walls and doors to make a room, which is what we'll do. The reason I want to do this is because it's going to increase the morale by 1. Right now it's not necessary, but it'll eventually be necessary. It just makes them happier, less stressed. That's plain and simple what it is. So far, we've got bathrooms. We'll get to this eventually, that's fine. We've got beds, perfect. So the other thing it tells you is there's no oxygen diffusers built. So you want to go build oxygen diffusers, but we're out of metal. So usually in the safe biome, there's usually like a pocket of coal and metal. So we're gonna need to dig into this to get all this metal. There's not much metal down here. No. Right there. There we go. So we'll get this built up here. We'll get some, I want them to get this metal as soon as possible so I can build my oxygen diffuser. It's not necessary at the beginning as much because we typically have oxalite. But you know what? It's safer to build it because you might forget. I tend to build it sort of close to their living quarters just so we make sure that there's oxygen in that area. Let's go down here. The next little thing to do, so there's carbon dioxide. I'm getting carbon dioxide in the base, which is fine. You're gonna have carbon dioxide. You have to get used to it. Carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen. Obviously, there's a carbon and 2 oxygen in the CO2 molecule, so it's heavier than oxygen. Oxygen is just O2, so CO2 goes to the bottom, oxygen goes higher. So all this carbon dioxide is eventually going to make it down to the lowest place. Here you've got, these are plants. These can be harvested for food. There's a harvest plants here, just hotkey is Y. What I do is I just tell them harvest every single plant you get in contact with eventually. Like, we're not going to get here anytime soon, but whenever they do, I won't have to remember to get it, to harvest it. Each plant gives something, whether food or healing salve or better morale for decorations in the base. They all give something, so eventually I just let my dupes get everything. Meal lice, it's food. So the last thing we're going to do for our basic base is build a food item and research station. A food processor, or food, what is it called? A micro musher. One thing to note about food, so your duplicants, these are their needs. If you go in their status, it tells you their condition. Their health, their stress, their morale, their bladder, so this guy's almost full, their stamina, how many calories they have. They need 1,000 kcals per cycle. So here I've got 23,000 kcals. So quick math, we've got 3 duplicants at 1,000 kcals each. I'm good for another 7 cycles. The food is not scarce right now. I have 7 cycles to start making food for them. They are sleeping. It's all good. When they wake up, they'll come do this. So my oxygen is a bit low. I'll probably focus on getting oxygen because my oxalite is gone. This is the only oxalite left. This thing needs power. If you click on it, it'll tell you its requirements. So it needs algae and power. So you go in the power tab, build a manual generator. This is like a hamster wheel. This is what your duplicants run on to generate electricity. And you have to connect everything with a wire. It's obvious. It should be obvious, but you know. In case you didn't think of it, you don't know how the game mechanics works, that's fine. I'll tell them to build this fast because I want oxygen. Oxygen is sort of important for them. They sort of need it to live. Once they're done that, they'll go run on the hamster wheel. The last thing, so once we have oxygen, fine. Won't have to worry about it. Like, they're consuming oxygen, so the concentration's getting lower. What I like to do is having a low spot where all the CO2 can accumulate. So it's like a CO2 pit. We're almost done. You also have batteries because if they run on the hamster wheel, as soon as they stop, this is going to stop working. But at least with batteries, you can store some electricity. Like right there. There we go. Someone put algae in there, and now it's producing 500 grams per second of oxygen. And they're like, well, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. A duplicant? Where does it say? Breath. There we go. Wait, no, that's not it. Anyways, they consume 100 grams per second of oxygen. Oh, there we go. They're inhaling 100 grams per second of oxygen. So I've got 3 duplicants. This is doing 500. So I've got 200 grams per second of extra oxygen to spread throughout the base. So their oxygen needs would be met. This stops, he says, becomes idle when the area reaches maximum pressure capacity. So if this area is maximum, and this area is not, the oxygen's eventually gonna, spread throughout the base. It just takes a little bit sometimes. Whenever you have sand that falls, it says building entombment. So basically, they can't use this until this is destroyed. There we go. Also, when starting, there's a lot of things going on. I know, there's so many things. Tell them, I want this recharged when the battery's at 20%, not beforehand. You can change it as you want. Alright, so the last thing we're building, oh no wait, is a research station, which you're going to need to unlock this research tree. Let's just build it right about here. Priority 6. There we go. So this is the basics of a base. You're also just connect it, the micro musher. As soon as you try to build a wire, it automatically goes to the power overlay. Same if you want to build plumbing, like let's say I want to, well, I can't really build it now, but once we get pipes, it'll automatically switch to the plumbing overlay. So at least it sort of highlights where everything is. All right, last thing we see in this tutorial right now, this first episode, is this, the printing pod. So every 3-ish cycles, you get a new printable, a new blueprint. You can see the status by this yellow bar. Once it gets full, then you get a new one. So you're like, okay, awesome. Before this upgrade, you only had a choice between 3 duplicants. But now they added a 4th slot, and you get the choice between 2 to 3 duplicants and the rest random materials. So here you have it. You have a blossom seed, which I'll show you what that is. A blossom seed is a bristle blossom. So it's a plant that gives you food, but it does need light to grow. I tend to stay away from it. It also needs water to grow, which I try to not use anything that requires water. You can use it though, there's no issues with that. You can have a pufflet egg. So pufflet egg is a critter. This guy, you got a puff. So it consumes polluted oxygen and it excretes slime. We don't need this guy. We can get 1 or 2 duplicants, or we can actually reject all of them. So this guy's pretty good. I mean, they're both decent. This one is just a really slow learner, which I don't really like because they learn their skills slower. But this guy's pretty good. Let's get Liam. We'll print him. There we go. And then the printing pod says next print is in 3.0 cycles. Simple as that. And now Liam is part of the team. Huzzah! Everyone's happy. So that's the basics of a base. If you could get, again, priority is the outhouse. Outhouse is priority because you don't want pee everywhere. You also don't want to spread germs everywhere, because if they just pee anywhere, I mean, there's going to be germs everywhere. You don't want that. The next thing, you want beds just so they can have a decent night's sleep. And also the oxygen diffuser. Depending on what your map layout is like, oxygen diffuser will be required sooner or later. You can check just by looking at the overlay. If you don't feel comfortable, I would say stick with 3 duplicants for a while. Things will get done slower, but there's less to worry about. Like, you don't have to worry about producing more oxygen or making sure there's enough food. Like, just one less mouth to feed, basically. But here I have everything ready. I've got oxygen, there's cots, there's bathrooms. They can dig. I'm gonna slowly expand my base, but for now, this is a great, if you can get to this point, you're doing really well. You don't have to do it in 3 cycles. Don't even think about that. If it takes you 8 cycles, that's fine. Priority is outhouse. If you can get to this, that's good. So I'll end the first tutorial here. Next tutorial, I'll go through the research tree. I'll sort of show you what is what. I'll explain a little bit more of what is all around us and why things look different. And we'll try to get food up and running as soon as possible. That is all. I hope you guys watched the second episode. If there's anything, if you have any questions about anything, how to do things so far, like things I haven't covered, I might not be able to, I'll explain as best as possible. But any questions about what's been done here, don't be shy, leave a comment, like and subscribe, and come back for the next one. Thanks guys. See ya.